Good evening, it's sunny today. Before reading this book, I have one question. Have you ever changed your mind many times? When? Let's begin. Little Miss Pickles. Would you like me to tell you a story? If you were Little Miss Pickle, you'd say, yes, please. And then you'd say, no, thank you. And then you'd say, yes, again. Little Miss Pickle was one of those people who just could not make up their mind, ever, anything, about anything. Little Miss Pickle lives in Dandelion Cottage, which was on the outskirts of Sunny Town, and she lived right next door to her best friend, Little Miss Neat, who lives in Chirping Cottage. One Monday, Little Miss Pickle and Little Miss Neat went out to lunch in Sunny Town. I will have the soup to start with, said Little Miss Neat to the waiters as she looked at the menu, followed by the fish. So will I, said Little Miss Pickle. But after the waiter has written down the order, Little Miss Pickle looked at the menu again. No, I won't, she said. I will have the salad instead, followed by the roast chicken. The waiter crossed out the first order and wrote down the second. On the other hand, continued Little Miss Pickle, I won't have anything to start with, but then I will have the eggs. The waiter sighed. 1 hour later, after the waiter had rolled out 3 pencils and 4 order pads, Little Miss Pickle finally made up her mind to have a soup followed by fish. The waiter brought the soup. Little Miss Pickle looked at it. I'm not hungry anymore, she said. It was at that moment that the waiters decided he was going to be a bus conductor instead of waiters. What a poor waitress. On Tuesday, Little Miss Pickle went to buy a hat. I want a new pink hat, she announced to the milliner. The milliner hat seller bought her 2 pink hats to choose from. I'll have this one, said Little Miss Pickle after she tried them both on. Certainly, ma'am, replied the milliner, and put the hat in a hat box. On the other hand, said Little Miss Pickle, I think I will have the other hat. The milliner took the first hat out of the hat box and then put the second hat into the hat box. But, continued Little Miss Pickle, I think the first hat suited me better, don't you? The milliner didn't say a word as she took the second hat out of the hat box and then put the first hat back into the hat box. She handed the hat box to Little Miss Pickle. Little Miss Pickle looked at the milliner. Do you have any blue hat? She asked. It was at that moment that the milliner decided she was going to be ballerina instead of milliners. What a poor hat seller. On Wednesday, Little Miss Pickle went to the butcher's. I liked some sausages, she said. Beef sausages or pork sausages, asked the butcher's. Pork sausages, replied Little Miss Pickle. The butcher wrapped up the pork sausages. But beef sausages would be nicer, said the Little Miss Pickle. The butcher unwrapped the pork sausages and wrapped up some beef sausages instead. On the other hand, continued little Miss Pickles, chop would be tastier. It was at that moment that the butcher decided he needed a holiday. What a poor butcher. But on Thursday, guess what happened? Little Miss Pickle disappeared. Little Miss Neat had seen her pass Tupin cottage on the way into Sunny Town, but she hadn't come back. She didn't come back on Friday either, so little Miss Neat went looking for her. She met Mr. Mother. "Have you seen the little Miss Pickle?" she asked anxiously. Mr. Mother looked at her in a puzzled sort of a way. "Did you say, have I been for little Tickle?" he asked. "Oh, Mr. Mother," said little Miss Neat, and hurried on. The little Miss Neat met the Mr. Forgettable. "Have you seen the little Miss Pickle?" she asked. Mr. Forgettable thought. "Well," she said, "have you?" Mr. Forgettable thought again. "Have I what?" he asked after a while. "Oh, Mr. Forgettable," said little Miss Neat, and hurried on. But could she find little Miss Pickle? No, she could not. Nobody had seen her. The Sunnytown Public Landing Library has 19,999 books. On Saturday afternoon, little Miss Pickle reached up and took one of them down from a shelf. "I'll read this one," she thought of herself. On the other hand, she thought again, "Look at another book. Perhaps I'll read that book instead." She put the first book back on the shelf and took the other book down. It was the 19,999 book she had chosen. Little Miss Pickle had been in the library for 3 days choosing a book. 3 whole days choosing just one single solitary book. She went home carrying her book. That Saturday afternoon, little Miss Neat was in a garden of Tupin Cottage when little Miss Pickles walked past. "Where have you been?" she called out. "To the library," replied little Miss Pickle. "For 3 days?" exclaimed little Miss Neat. "Well," explained little Miss Pickle, "I wanted to choose the right book." And she held it up, and then she stopped and looked at it. "Oh, botherations," she said. "I've read it before." What a poor little Miss Pickles. Thank you. Have a nice day.